822, let's talk a little Normandy. Lots has been said about the Normandy School District over the last year. The governor's had his say, the legislature's had their say, the teachers have had their say, the other districts have had their say. But oddly enough, the parents and the students really don't have a voice until now. They've filed a lawsuit, and Josh Schindler is the attorney representing the Normandy parents. Josh, welcome to KTRS here in St. Louis.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, talk about it. What do the parents want out of this lawsuit?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar, but there were several cases decided by the Supreme Court. It was one case, but it changed names, which allowed a student to transfer out of a district which was not accredited.
Right.
So what happened was last year approximately 2,200 kids transferred out of two districts, one of which was Normandy, which were unaccredited. And this year, as you may know, the governor vetoed a bill to address this issue. And what's happened is DESE, the Department of English and Secondary Education, basically tried to circumvent the legislature and the governor and to do many of the things in the bill. One of which was, by the way, to exclude kids from transferring who even transferred last year.
Right. Okay. So we find ourselves in a situation where no laws have changed, but the kids are no longer allowed to transfer.
That's absolutely correct. And the greatest tragedy of this whole thing is, you had a bunch of kids, 2,200 kids last year who transferred, and all of a sudden that right has been taken away from them.
So how many parents are in this lawsuit, and what are you trying to do?
Well, we have 6 parents so far from various different districts. This morning we're adding a 7th to address Francis Howell, so you're the first hearing it. And basically what we're saying is the Department of Education and DESE did not have the authority to do what they're doing, and that any child who is in a district which is not accredited is allowed to transfer to a school either in the same district or contiguous district with an accredited school.
So you just are suing so that they follow the law and follow the law that the Supreme Court ruled unanimously numerous times on.
Yeah, I mean, what this is it's a game, and we wouldn't accept this from our children. We try, in every school they have references to character and how you should follow the rules and how you should be a good person. And, each school has a variation on the theme. But what's happening here is that there is a law that is clear-cut. And the people who are supposed to educate our children to follow rules are basically setting their own rules. What they're doing, this is just a huge delay tactic, and it's worked for the last 5 or 6 years. And the interesting thing about this is the people who are paying for this, these students, are each paying money to have lawyers basically go out there and snub their nose at the Supreme Court and the legislature. And this has got to, at some point, has to stop. Now, interestingly enough, the Attorney General is a defendant, will have to defend a lot of, for example, the state of Missouri and DESE. But really what should be happening is that the Attorney General should be a plaintiff in this litigation. At the end, let me tell you, if this were not mostly African-American children, there would be an uproar in the state of Missouri that, white kids weren't getting a good education.
I don't know if it were African-American versus white, but I will agree with you that if it were a rich neighborhood, you would hear an uproar.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way of putting it. If these were kids in Ladue who were not getting a good education, the parents would be, calling the governor. They'd be calling their school boards. Now, interestingly enough, and there were, you look at a situation like this, which is very depressing that the State Board of Education is doing this. Now, there have been sort of rays of hope. So, for example, I don't know if you're aware of this, but University City initially, their school board had made a decision not to accept these kids back. And then they had an open board meeting where they heard from the parents. And these parents talked about how this was a ray of hope, that their last year that they spent at University City, that it had impacted the lives of their family. The statements from the parents were so compelling. By the way, there were numerous tears in the audience, but also at least one board member changed her vote because of what she heard, and now University City is letting the schools back in. Interestingly enough, Kirkwood voted unanimously last night to not only let the school, all the kids in, but also DESE had wanted them to accept a lower tuition rate, which, by the way, violates the statute. DESE doesn't have a right to do this. And basically, Kirkwood has said to DESE, no, we're not going to do what you told us to do. We're going to take all of the kids, and by the way, we're going to charge the tuition rate that we're supposed to charge. Now, that has pretty much probably set up a potential lawsuit between Kirkwood and Normandy, because I don't think Normandy intends to pay the full
right.
amount required by the statute.
Okay, Josh, hold on a second here because we're short on time. So a point of question here. If University City says, hey, we can take some kids, and Kirkwood says, hey, we can take some kids, but according to the rules that they changed, they're no longer allowed to transfer. So what's the point of U City saying they'll take kids if Normandy's not allowing the kids to transfer?
Well, they've created two classes of kids. The classes of kids are those who went to Normandy schools in 12 and 13, and those kids who chose to go to parochial school or private school in 12 and 13. So they basically created two classes of kids. DESE did. Now, by the way, it doesn't matter whether the person was a taxpayer in Normandy for 15 years and scraped enough money to send the kid to parochial school. They've created two classes of kids. So basically what they're saying is, if you kept your kid in a failing school, and you've paid for the same number of years as a taxpayer in Normandy, but then we're going to let you go to University City, or we're going to let you go to Kirkwood. But by the way, if you work 2-3 jobs and you were able to pay for a parochial school to give your kid a decent education, we're going to penalize you for being that type of parent.
Right.
It's one of the most abhorrent things. It has no justification, and frankly, the one person who needs to come to St. Louis and resolve this problem is the governor. It is his responsibility to make sure we have a decent educational system, and this is the legacy that he's going to leave, a disastrous educational system that needs to be fundamentally fixed.
Okay, and a quick question. You mentioned a Francis Howell parent is joining the lawsuit. Why would a Francis Howell parent join the lawsuit?
Yeah, the Francis Howell, what will happen is a Normandy student who was in Francis Howell last year,
right,
and Francis Howell said, we're not going to take any kids. They will join the lawsuit today, so we will have another district involved today.
So you're suing the Francis Howell School District?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're suing among the parents, that one of the people you're suing is the Francis Howell School District, saying they're breaking the law by not allowing these kids back in.
Yeah, it's not. This is a clear-cut violation of the law.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
So hopefully that clarifies that.
Okay, Josh, last question for you. We mentioned these lawsuits and that have taken a long time to work themselves all the way up to the Supreme Court. So much so that the cases that the Supreme Court were actually ruling on, those kids had already graduated out of high school. So my question to you is, how long do you think the courts will take to clarify the law that they've clarified, that's taken them 5 years to clarify the law already? How long is your lawsuit going to take before the courts rule on this?
Well, there's no telling, but in this case, the court has given us what's called a preliminary injunction hearing, which is to enjoin DESE and the school districts from doing this. The hearing is set on the 6th of August, and the goal would be to get a preliminary ruling before the school year begins, and that's my goal. I don't want another Turner, and you're right. What happened the last time is 5 or 6 years passed, and these kids had graduated or they had failed So we can't do that anymore. We don't have an opportunity to allow continued delay. Now, there's no guarantee, but we need to do something to stop this game playing immediately.
So you would like to see this August 6th ruling and the court say, we're going to go back to the way the law was last year while we figure out what's this going on now?
Frankly, all I'm asking the court to do is require DESE and the Department of Education to follow the law.
All right.
Not going back to. There is no justification for them thumbing their nose at the Supreme Court and the legislature.
All right. What kind of lawsuit is this? You want the people to actually follow the law. What kind of rogue lawyer are you, Josh Schindler?
Yeah, well, in the end, the worst part of this is these are the educators who are telling our children to follow the rules and to have good character. What kind of good character is it? What are we teaching our children? If you wonder why the educational system in Missouri is in trouble, all you have to do is look at the conduct of the Department of Education and DESE when it comes to the transfer statutes. This epitomizes what the issue is. Basically, you've got the fox guarding the hen house.
Josh, good luck August 6th, and hopefully we'll be in contact between now and then.
Thank you.
You got it. Josh Schindler, attorney representing the Normandy parents in the lawsuit, and I agree with him completely. The law hasn't changed, and yet now they're saying the kids, you can't transfer this year. And no law has been rewritten. And the Supreme Court ruled on the law. The law is the law. You don't like the law? Change the law.
It is amazing to me, though, that these parents have to go to this extent,
Yes.
this extreme, to have to hire a lawyer.
Yes.
Just so they can keep their kids in the schools that they have been transferred
Just so
to.
they can follow the law, which the Supreme Court ruled on. 8:34.